Hello, everyone. I'm just letting people in, so give me a minute or two. Please make sure you're muted. Otherwise, we'll get a lot of background noise. All right. So lovely to have you here. I'd love to know where you are calling in from. Going to be a few minutes of me just letting people into the room, so bear with me while we get started. What I am going to do is I'm going to post a link to the worksheet for today. You can either print this off or you can just follow along online with it. So just give me a second. Put that in the chat. All right. Okay, so this is the worksheet for today. I've just put in the chat. So we've got someone there from Germany. I'm sorry, I can't see your name, but welcome. I can see a few names that I recognize. So welcome everyone. Please feel free to tell me where you're coming in from in the chat. Hopefully it's not like too ridiculous a time where you are. Okay. All right. So I'm likely going to have to, for the first few minutes, stop and let people in a bit. So I might just give it another minute or so. Mercury goes direct today, guys. So this is the perfect day for a workshop like this, the perfect day to, you know, be planning and moving forward on things. So we have Kimberly from Kentucky, Jordan from California. Welcome. We've run this workshop a few times now, particularly I tend to run it in the around February. In Australia, I'm from Australia, by the way. In Australia, we have our long break in December and January. So my year doesn't really kick off properly until February. So I tend to run this in February as a great training on how we can use astrology more in the way that we work and plan our year. So we've also got Jillian from Orcas Island, Washington. We've got Nikki from California. Hi, Nikki. We've got Sean from Northern California as well. Got Merja from Sweden. Awesome. So nice to see you guys. I definitely have a big following from the US, probably over half my followers and clients, probably actually 3/4 of my clients are from the US. So that's awesome. We've got Susan from New York. Welcome. Got Heather has just joined. Heather's in my level 1 astrology certification. Welcome, Heather. Nice to have you here. Awesome. So nice to see you guys. All right. So I might just start just a little bit before I get into the proper slides. I wanted to give at least 5 minutes for people to be joining. As I said, I'm in Australia. I'm in a place called Adelaide in South Australia, which is down the bottom of Australia. I've been in online business for 10 years now. I just had my 10-year anniversary a few weeks ago, which is kind of incredible. I can remember being a year or two in and feeling like I was such a newbie and, you know, I felt a bit awkward about promoting myself because I was so new, and now like click my fingers and it's 10 years later. So it's a bit of a strange feeling. And sorry, just make sure you're muted, everyone, as we go through. Yeah, so a bit of a strange feeling to be 10 years in, but I've done a lot in those 10 years. I started out as, I first started as a mumpreneur coach. So business coach to mums that wanted to start businesses. So I guess I taught what I knew. I taught what I had done myself as well. Then I kind of had my first big break with a program, the e-course launch formula. So this was $1 million e-course that I created. I ran it for probably 6 years. It was very, very successful. I helped thousands of entrepreneurs get their e-courses out into the world. But things started to feel not quite enough, not quite satisfying enough. I went through my own, spiritual awakening. I started studying a whole lot of soul and energy medicine. So I did a soul and energy medicine practitionership over a year. And then I did a full year studying astrology. And as soon as I started studying astrology, I was like, yeah, this is my thing. So the energy medicine practitionership was amazing. I learned kinesiology and a whole lot of different techniques, but it was astrology was that thing that just clicked for me, that was right for me. So it's just been ever since been heading off in that direction. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive in. I might just post that worksheet again. So there is a worksheet for this workshop that you can download. So I've just put that in the chat. You will, by the way, at the end of this call, I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email that will have a link to the recording. It will have a link to the worksheet and anything else you need from this training. So don't worry, that will all be provided. I'm also going to give you a download of the slides so that you've got all that information to refer to if you're doing the worksheet later. Okay, so just know that you're going to get everything you need. All right. Okay, so let's share my screen. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to put the worksheet off to the side for a minute. I will refer to it as we go through. Let me just move that off to the side a little bit. All righty. Let's get this up a bit bigger on the screen. All right, and I might just zoom out slightly. Perfect. Just gonna, sorry for having to take a moment to set it all up so we're working effectively. All right, so this is a free workshop, the art of astro planning. Astro planning is one of my great loves because I am an extreme planner personality. Whenever I've done personality tests, I'm like off the charts on the planning, organizing side of things. Definitely a contradiction though, because I'm also quite high level and strategic, and there's certain types of detail that I just can't handle. But I love to plan. I love to organize and plan, whether it's my goals for the year, my goals for the next 3 months, the month, the week, the day. It's just my thing. I love to plan. And I guess over the years, I recognize that this doesn't come naturally to everyone and that I can help people in this particular area of life. And then as I learned astrology, I realized how we could then add the layer of astrology into the way we plan. It's a much more feminine way to live our lives, by the way. And if we've got men on the call, that's fine. Feminine doesn't mean it's only for females. It's just a more intuitive, aligned way to plan our lives. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I also want to give you a bit of a sense of the astrological energies that we're dealing with this year. I will say it's a bit of a lighter year for us astrologically, which is nice. So as I said, welcome to everyone on the call. It's so nice to have you here. I will tell you a little bit about my background. I'm going to talk about astro planning and why I love it. I'll give you a brief overview of the astrology of 2022. I'm going to talk about the different types of retrogrades that we have and what each one is good for and not so good for. I am going to talk about working with the new and full moons, which is something that I do religiously and have done for probably 4 years now, probably more than that, but at least 4 years. I'm going to talk about planning your week using Planetary Days, which is a really cool way to shift the way that we work a bit. And I'm going to also talk about applying your learnings, and I'll also go through some of the things that are coming up to work with me. I've got another free training that's coming up very, very soon, and my year-long program is also enrolling soon. So I'm going to just give you a brief, not hard sell at all, very brief introduction to that. Okay, continue. All righty. So welcome everyone. I'm just going to see if I can find the chat and just post that link again. We've had a few more people. Here we go. Just going to pop the link to the worksheet in again so that people can download it. All righty. Let's keep moving. So I did give you my kind of less orderly introduction to myself, but I'm a business astrologer at catherinehocking.com. I am just focused on business astrology. I do natal readings as well, but I always kind of look at them from a perspective of if you wanted to have a business, if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, what sort of businesses might suit you, what type of work might suit you, who might your soul clients be, all of that sort of thing. I'm a business astrology trainer at my academy, the Embodied Soul Astrology Academy. So I've got a lot of individual courses that you can take. I'm an Astro brand designer at Pisces Creative Co. So I have created my own approach to branding, which blends astrology and branding. And so I don't work with a lot of clients. I work with 1 to 2 at a time in quite a high touch way to create Astro brands for entrepreneurs. Got 10 years experience in online business, including a multi-million-dollar e-course that I created, the e-course launch formula. I'm a business coach and launch strategist. I very much blend strategy and soul. So I'm still very practical, very grounded, very strategic, as well as being soulful. And I'm also a qualified soul and energy medicine practitioner. So that's a bit of my background. In my past corporate life, I was a corporate trainer, so I'm a qualified trainer as well. So what is astro planning? Well, it's a process of using astrological concepts to plan your year, month, week, and day. It allows you to work in alignment with your natural cycles as well as the universal cycles that are at play. And it assists you to feel in flow, more intuitive, more aligned, and you can also apply it to your unique natal chart. So what's beautiful about it is it can become highly specific to you, okay? But first, I'm going to talk you through the astrology of 2021 and 2022. I'll kind of talk about where we've been and where we're going to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect this year, okay? Please feel free to ask questions as we go along, because I know that sometimes I can assume knowledge or an ability to apply things. And if, as I'm going through these techniques, you get stuck, please feel free to put questions in the chat. So 2021 forced us to get creative and pushed us towards harnessing technology in order to expand our experience and knowledge. We're really, with the pandemics, the shutdowns, quarantines, all of this stuff, it's really pushed us to harness technology a whole lot more. We were restricted from full-scale global travel in 2021. Definitely impacted us here in Australia. We've been able to travel, or probably some of us have been able to travel around Australia. Certain parts of the country did have very long lockdowns, but we saw innovative and creative travel options such as regional bubbles between countries and regions, quarantine hotels and home quarantine options. There was an explosion out of necessity in online schooling and flexible working. So I have a daughter right now who is doing online home learning. Lucky she's old enough to be quite self-sufficient. And then I've got my other daughter who was allowed to go back to school. So schools have had to suddenly upskill in their ability and in their technology to do online schooling. And then there was this real conflict and division between pro and anti-vax movements. And I'm certainly not going to get into the politics of that. But there were also just people that were opposed or just sick of lockdowns and tight restrictions of personal freedom. So there's been a lot going on in our society. So the thing I can say about 2022 is there's a more balanced energy to 2022. So if we include Chiron, which is a major asteroid that is very much used by astrologers these days, we've actually got outer planets or asteroids in each element. So we've got fire, air, earth, and water all represented this year in terms of where the planets are. What that does is it gives us a much more balanced energy, particularly than we had a couple of years ago when we had Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter all in Capricorn. Okay, so we've had planets start to move a bit, and we've got this more balanced energy for 2022. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of the major aspects we've got this year, and then we'll look at the worksheet and I'll talk you through how you can then apply it to your own chart. So if you don't know your you should know your date of birth most likely. If you don't know your time of birth and that sort of stuff, you can look at this from a more general level. If you are able to get your exact time of birth, then you can certainly run an astrology chart and get a sense of where it's going to impact you more specifically. And I'll give you an example using my chart, okay? So major aspects, we've got Neptune conjunct Jupiter this year. So it's going to be direct on the 12th of April of this year at 24 degrees Pisces. This is the date that we're going to feel this conjunction most strongly, or or have the most potency. But really, we're going to feel this energy for the whole year in 2022. So it's a powerful conjunction because both planets are at home in Pisces. So Jupiter's traditional ruling sign is Pisces. The modern ruler is Sagittarius. So both of these planets are actually really comfortable and at home with this energy. And this aspect occurs every 13 years in successive signs. So the last one we had 13 years ago was in Aquarius. This one's in Pisces. And so astrologers kind of see this as a historically significant one. It's a real cycle that we go through as a society. And this conjunction also marks the first time that civilization as we know it has experienced it, forming conjunctions through all 12 signs, because Neptune was only discovered in 1846. So it's the only time that we've consciously been aware of this Neptune-Jupiter conjunction through all of the signs. So it's like the end of this big cycle for us, okay? So we need to consider this aspect in the context of the last few years, which have been pretty intense astrologically, okay? We had a Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. Jupiter was very unhappy in Capricorn. It does not match with its expansive, optimistic energy at all. And to have three of these major planets all together in Capricorn, Capricorn's a very traditional, patriarchal type energy, very stuck in its ways. And so this was a pretty intense period, and this happened around 2020, around the time the pandemic hit. Then we had last year, we had Saturn square Uranus. So these also are opposing energies. As I said, Saturn is that patriarchal, traditional energy. Uranus is the opposite to that. Uranus is rebellious. It wants change. It wants sudden change. It will start a revolution. It's like they couldn't be more opposite energies, and they were squaring each other. So they were like going head to head in a way with each other last year. And so this is where we saw things like, the issues between pro-vac and anti-vac movements, the issues between this sense of collective benefit versus personal freedom. This was very much this Saturn square Uranus energy, okay? So these were much more restrictive, masculine and dominating forces over the last few years through this time of global pandemic and all of these changes we've had to go through. So this year, if we think about Jupiter, Neptune, some of you will know more about astrology than others on the call, but Jupiter, Neptune archetypes are a lot softer. They're more feminine archetypes. And so it's quite opposite to what we've had the last few years. So this aspect really brings a new sense of hope, vision, creativity, and spirituality. So I feel this is a much, no aspect's ever perfect, right? But it's a much lighter aspect for us in this year. So creative expression, fresh vision, and spiritual contemplation and exploration is what will be called towards in 2022. Okay. So the changes at play will be happening underneath the surface. The thing about this aspect is it's not so direct, it's not so obvious. So there'll be lots of smaller shifts that are going on underneath the surface. And they might feel imperceptible to begin with, but they're actually going to pave the way for more changes in 2023 when Jupiter moves into Aries. And Jupiter is going to be able to be more active and make more obvious change in 2023. Okay, so this is one of the major aspects that we're looking at this year. So what we want to do, if we want to consider how this is going to impact us personally, we want to look for 24 degrees Pisces on our chart, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And then we want to look if which houses are at 24 degrees Pisces, or which house, and are there any natal planets there? Then we can think about what might this aspect mean for you in 2022. And you can also think back to 13 years ago. So what was going on when the same aspect was happening, but in a different sign, in Aquarius instead? What was going on in your life in 2009? And you might be able to see some correlations or connections between what's going on now. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring up my chart. So I'd been smart, I just would have screenshotted it in the slides, but I didn't. But at least you'll see how I bring it up on astro.com here. Okay, so the free service that I use for astrology charts, I have a paid service as well for client work, but the free service I recommend is astro.com. And if you'll need to create an account if you don't have one. Mute, okay. So if we go, once you've created your account, it will then come up here, and you would need to add your date of birth, your time of birth, your place of birth, etc. And then we just go chart during ascendant. Okay, it's this first option. Okay, so this is my birth chart. And so what we want to do is we want to find 24 degrees Pisces to get a sense of how this transit's going to impact us personally. And the way to find the degrees is we start from our AC, our rising, and we actually go anti-clockwise around the chart. Okay. Sorry, I'm having to start and stop as people join and let people in. So we go anti-clockwise around our chart. So it doesn't matter which sign you have here, just go anti-clockwise until you find Pisces. This is Pisces, the glyph for Pisces, okay? So when we get to the start of Pisces, that's 0 degrees, all right? Each of these smaller notches here are 5 degrees, and the bigger ones are 10 degrees. So we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And we are looking for 24 degrees. Now I've got a little bit of an indicator here because my DC angle is actually at 21 degrees. So I know it's going to be past that. This would be 25 degrees, this little notch here. So really, this is where this conjunction is going to happen in my chart. So it's just over my DC angle, and it's in my 7th house. The 7th house is all about marriage and partnership. Now, if you do not have information around what the different houses mean, you can download on my website at catherinehocking.com. You can opt in for my astrology basics course, and as part of that, it's a free course, you get a PDF that will give you a list of what all the houses mean. Okay, so I do recommend you do that if you are new to astrology. All right, so I know that it's close to my DC line. The DC line is the line of relationships. In business astrology, I look at it as soul clients. So let's look back at these questions based on my chart. So I know it's in my 7th house of marriage and partnership. I don't have any natal planets there. It's fairly close to my DC angle, so that's probably going to mean it's a fairly significant aspect for me personally. So Jupiter and Neptune, when I feel into this, it makes me think about, and I am married, it makes me think about like soul connection, or like working on my relationship to be a much deeper, more spiritual connection. Or it could be around being more creative in our relationship. It could be also, you know, a sign around my soul clients and calling more people in this year to work with me, because it's very close to my soul client line. So this is what I mean around looking at what might it mean for you personally. So if for you, there's a natal planet very close, when I say very close, I mean like within a couple of degrees, then think about what that planet's about. And again, my astrology basics that you can download from my main website gives you information about each planet. But let's have an example. Let's say that we had Mercury at 24 degrees Pisces. Well, obviously, this is going to bring in a level around communication. Mercury is all about communication. So there's going to be some element personally for you with this aspect that is about communication. It could also be about learning. So for example, if this was activating in your ninth house of learning and expansion, and Mercury was also there, you might go, okay, well, maybe I'm going to be called to study some sort of spiritual study this year. Okay. So Jordan has Venus there at 23 Pisces. So Venus can be, and again, I don't know what house it is in for you. Venus can either relate to relationships and love. In business astrology, okay, thank you. In business astrology, it can relate to money and receptivity, okay? So it could be for you around study, Jordan, that will bring more money and receptivity. So kind of the outcome from that study, having a new skill or something like that. Okay, I'm not going to be able to answer everyone's, but I will answer a couple so that we have some examples. So Jillian, sorry, the comments are moving quickly. Jillian has a Saturn there at 22 Pisces and second house. So there's going to be some sort of expansion in your second house of natural skills and talents. This is also the entrepreneurial house. Okay. But with Saturn there, Saturn's either going to mean that you're going to need to bring in more discipline and responsibility. Well, that's probably what it's going to be about, is needing to be more disciplined and responsible to actually make use of it. Remembering Jupiter can be quite a lazy planet. Jupiter is expansion and abundance, right? But only if we put in the work and do something with it, okay? So 28 degrees Venus, Ashley, it's probably a little bit far out, 4 degrees out from the aspect. I mean, it's still technically considered conjunct, but I tend to look at planets that are really within a couple of degrees, but similar to what I said for the other person with Venus. So Mercury, something around communications in your home environment, so home and family, maybe some sort of deeper connection with family, but you'll need to communicate to make that happen. 12th house, Pisces in the 12th house, this is going to be, so it's going to be very much underneath the surface for you. 12th house, it's hidden, it's repressed, it's suppressed, subconscious. Okay, so it's likely to be going on underneath the surface. 11th house, it's likely to be affecting your groups and community or hopes and dreams. Okay, so that's what the 11th house is about. So what we need to remember is Neptune is about creativity and spirituality. Jupiter is about expansion, learning, abundance. So we want to merge those two archetypes together to get a sense of what this conjunction is about. So to me, I think of things like spiritual learning, perhaps learning a new creative skill. These are some of the things that come to mind for me. So, all right, so I'm going to have to move on from this. I hope me giving a few examples has helped. We're going to move on to the next one, okay? And I'll definitely respond to some more people in the next one. All right, so where are we? All righty. Get this survey bit. So the next one, interesting thing about the aspects this year as well, guys, is they're quite very direct for really quite a short period of time. All right. Yeah, so they're really specific dates we're looking at. I've already put them in my diary and to make sure I remember when they're happening. All right. So we have Uranus, Mars, and North Node triple conjunction. Remembering that the North Node is not an actual planet. It's a mathematically calculated point, but it is considered very important in astrology. The North Node represents soul purpose. So we're going to have Uranus, Mars, and North Node all conjunct, all at the same place. So this is quite a fleeting aspect. It lasts for just 36 hours, okay? And it's going to be at around 18 to 19 degrees Taurus. So this is on the 1st of August. So you can put that down in your diaries at 18 to 19 degrees Taurus. So this one has not happened for a very long time. Last time this, a similar aspect occurred was in 324 BC at the time of Alexander the Great. And so there's a sense that this aspect may bring a new era of Alexandrian proportions. That sounds a bit intense, doesn't it? So it's one of a number of aspects that indicate that we're going through what is being coined by the World Economic Forum as the Great Reset. This has also been referred to as the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which has absolutely been accelerated by the coronavirus, okay? So this it would have happened anyway. And if you very much believe in fate and everything else, it was going to happen when it was going to happen. But on a more, practical sense, the coronavirus accelerated this happening, okay? So the World Economic Forum describes this fourth industrial revolution as a fundamental change to the way we live, work, and relate to one another. I mean, I think we've all seen that, right? In the last 2+ years, fundamental change in the way we live, work, and relate to each other. That's interesting. Terry, great conjunction will happen within 3 days of my birthday, and it will be 3 degrees MC. Yeah, so definitely note it down. Something interesting happening there. So the online and digital revolution is I've used revolution twice. That's not the best English. The online and digital revolution is a big part of this revolution, but it's not the only element at play, okay? It's bigger than just the digital revolution, but the digital revolution has really enabled this to happen. It's a new paradigm for how we can thrive in this new world. So this conjunction in Taurus indicates that we might expect unexpected, oxymoron, expect unexpected, perhaps violent or aggressive changes in our lives, but possibly ones that move us towards our soul purpose. However, watch out for the stubborn Taurus energy to resist it. So being in Taurus can be a bit fixed, a bit stubborn, not wanting to change. That's why probably Mars needed to be there to actually force some of whatever this change is that needs to happen, okay? So like we did before, we can look for where 18 to 19 degrees Taurus is on our chart. We can see which houses are involved, any natal planets, and think about what it might mean for us with those 3 energies. So remembering Uranus is about revolution and freedom. Mars is this bravery energy. It can be aggressive. It's about action taking. South Node is depends on your views. Most astrologers believe in past lives. So the South Node does represent our karmic point in our chart, our past lives, but it can also be about comfort zones, stagnancy, where we get stuck as well in life. Okay, so think about those 3 energies together when you're looking at your chart. Okay, so for me, 18, so we've got Taurus up here. This is the Taurus glyph. So we start from here, but I've got this indicator here to give me a bit of a sense. So I know that my Chiron is at 14 degrees. Okay, so it's going to be just after this. It's going to be in my 8th house. The 8 is quite a deep house for me. Well, for anyone. The 8th house rules sex, other people's money, power, the underworld, death and rebirth, transformation, You know, it rules the deep, dark parts of life. I've got my natal Chiron here, and this conjunction is going to be about 4 degrees away from it. So this could be quite an intense period of time for me. So definitely putting that in my diary. I believe that awareness is a really big helper. If we can be aware that certain energies are coming and be aware of what they might mean, we can be prepared for them, we can deal with them, or we can at least just be in acceptance of them, okay? So, you know, for me, this could be quite intense. Uranus is coming into this part of my life. And by the way, well, yeah, so Uranus has been transiting over my 8th house for a number of years now. It's brought some pretty intense stuff. It's brought massive highs and lows relating to other people's money. It has brought quite big like fights and arguments and like more aggressive type things into my life. It's brought, yeah, just a lot of upheaval. And there's been death around me as well. Happily not people super, super close to me, but still within my larger family unit. So, you know, this is an intense place to have Uranus transiting through for me. And the fact that it's quite close to my natal Chiron, my core wound and path to healing, means it's likely going to be pretty intense for me, okay? So you can think about how it might impact you. So just having a look. So yeah, the fact that it's very near your birthday, Terry, makes it fairly significant. Also being very close to your MC, there'll be something here around career and recognition in the world. I know you have an online, I believe it's an online business, Terry. So there might be some sort of big change that either you choose or is forced on you relating to that. So Sean has it conjuncting your North Node in your 7th house. So yeah, some sort of possibly, again, I feel like with this aspect, it's a bit more forced upon us than chosen, okay? So something might come up around marriage and partnerships, and also, you know, what you're really here to do in the world. Amanda has it 1st house with AC within 2 degrees. So for you, it's likely to be something around how other people see you. So maybe some event will create some sort of change in how you're seen or perceived by other people. You need to remember with Uranus, it can either be good or bad, and we never know. Like Uranus can bring really amazing, fantastic things to our lives, but it can also bring really hard things. But the thing is, it brings whatever we need. It brings whatever change is needed. It will force whatever change is needed in our lives, okay? 2nd house is going to be again about strengths and talents, entrepreneurial if you have a business. Yeah, 10th house for you, Terry, that's right. Jillian has North Node in Taurus at 16 degrees, 3rd house. So something around communication, some sort of change that needs to happen around communications in your life, and that will likely also relate to your purpose. So I think you probably mean 15 degrees, Minu. So 7th house with Chiron. So some sort of either healing event or like healing that needs to happen around marriage and partnership. 6th house, Heather. So some sort of shake up to your daily routine, what you're doing. So I don't know if you could think of anything that's going to change in your life around that time if you're starting something new. But yeah, it's likely going to shake things up a bit there for you. All right, so let's keep moving. So let's talk about retrogrades. Most of us are aware of Mercury retrograde, and Mercury has gone or will go direct today. And so most people know about retrogrades. One of the really important things to know about retrogrades is that they impact us less if that planet was retrograde when we were born. So I'll just show you how to know that. So in your chart, you look at all your signs here, if you see a little R next to any of them, it means that it was retrograde when you were born. So Chiron was retrograde when I was born. You can also see it here. You'll see this little R. So when I go through these retrogrades, keep in mind that if any of your planets were retrograde when you were born, and some of you might have been born in retrograde season and had heaps of them retrograde when you were born, it's likely to be the opposite for you. So if I say Mercury retrograde's not a good time to launch, not a good time to travel or sign contracts, it's probably actually the opposite for you, because that energy feels natural to you. You were born in that energy. So you're going to be more able to work with that energy than the average person. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Oh, thanks, Nikki. I'm glad this helps. So yeah, just keep this in mind with retrogrades. All right. So let's take a look. So a retrograde is when a planet appears to turn backwards in the sky. It doesn't actually, but from Earth it appears to. It happens due to an optical illusion. And all the major planets, excluding the luminaries, so the sun and moon, go retrograde from time to time. Okay. Heather says, yes, I just had a big aha for my own chart. I love how I always learn something new when I work with you. Thank you, Heather. I've been working with you for a few years now. Thank you so much for saying that. So when planets go retrograde, the impact of the planet changes and the types of activities that are recommended change too. But again, keeping in mind that reminder about if you have retrograde planets in your chart. So we have what we call retrograde season, and I've plotted this for you in this diagram for 2022. Okay, so when astrologers talk about retrograde season, what they mean is that a lot of planets are retrograding at the same time. And from my perspective, a lot of planets is probably like 4+ planets at the same time. Gillian says, yes, this answers the exact question I've had on my mind, what it means that I have Jupiter retrograde. Yeah, so you'll probably actually find you're more expansive, more free, more abundant during Jupiter retrograde, okay? So back in 2020, from May to November, 7 months, there are a lot of planets retrograde at the same time. And that, to be honest, that kind of describes 2020 to a T, that 7 of the months, you know, the energy wasn't quite right. In 2021, it was only 4 months long. And in 2022, it's really only like full season for about 3 months. So it absolutely varies from year to year. Some years, there'll be certain planets that don't retrograde at all. So we didn't have a Mars retrograde last year at all. So what this does is it plots each of these planets across the top, and then and this is in your worksheet, by the way. Then it plots the months, and we kind of see which is retrograding when. So really, if we look across, we've got like 3, but they're not all retrograde all at the same time. Then we've got a few months with no retrogrades. There's only 1 here, you know, 3. To my mind, retrograde season doesn't really start till July. Yeah, okay. So we've got 5 at the same time. And then in August, we've got 5 again. September, we've got 4 to 5. So my mind is this year, it's really July to September is the retrograde season, and then it tapers off again. Okay. I'm going to go through what each of the retrogrades means. Okay. So I'm remembering you're going to get these slides, so don't worry. I will, when I send you the recording afterwards, there'll be a link through where you can download the slides. So I've got the dates here of when they're retrograding in 2022. So with Mercury, as I said, most of us are aware of Mercury. Avoid launching contracts, websites, technology. Communications don't tend to go as smoothly, and it's a time to review and reflect. Unless, of course, you were born when Mercury's retrograde. It happens 3 times a year, sometimes 4. There's actually a 4th one starting, well, there are actually 4 in 2022 because we've already had one. So Venus, so you'll see here, this little arrow means it's already happening, but it has now finished. So it went to January 29th. So we actually don't have another one. No worries, Ashley. Nice to see you. We don't have another one this year, but this is a time where it's not great for launching due to a lack of magnetism, but it can be really good for connecting with past clients. So if we think about Venus it's money and receptivity and relationships. So if it's retrograding, think about like past clients in your life, people that maybe you could reach out to and see if they need any more help. With Mars, also from a personal perspective, yeah, things like dating and love life and that sort of stuff likely aren't great during that time. With Mars goes retrograde from October 30th, so towards the end of the year. It's not a great time to take action. Things will likely feel very stuck. You might feel a bit stuck in the mud when Mars is retrograde. So plans tend to go nowhere, or it feels like an uphill battle, okay? With Jupiter retrograde, it retrogrades for quite a significant period. And I think what I'll just stop and say here now is the main ones that I would plan business activities around are Mercury, Venus, and Mars, because they move quickly enough that, oops, didn't mean to do that. They move quickly enough that we can actually stop for a bit and not do something. Whereas these other planets can be retrograde for 4 or 5 months potentially. So it's just really too long to stop from doing most things. So Jupiter retrograde is a great time for inner contemplation and growth, finishing off old projects, especially abandoned study. Now, I know there's a lot of us that buy courses that we never complete. Jupiter retrograde's a great time for that. Saturn retrograde is a good time to review the structures in our lives, review our plans, our goals, and our career path. Uranus retrograde, and it's currently retrograde till the end of August, is a good time to reflect on any urges we have to quit, burn things down, or make big changes. That being said, it's really better to wait until it's direct again before we actually make the change, okay? So if you're contemplating something big in your life at the moment, particularly like of the burning down variety, maybe wait a little bit. Neptune retrograde can be a time of stark reality where the rose-colored glasses come off, but it can be a good time to resume a creative, musical, or artistic project, do healing work on past hurts or traumas, and revisit and question your spiritual beliefs. And Pluto retrograde, which is retrograde for quite a long period, as you can see there, it's a good time for delving into your old fears, limiting beliefs, and entrenched unconscious patterns. Okay, so what I recommend you do is take these dates, put them into your diary, perhaps print out this slide as a reminder so you can look them up when you need to just remind you of the types of activities that are useful at different times of the year. And you won't be able to see it very well, but in my, so I'm a big planner, as I said, I have a diary, and all of the different retrogrades and aspects and stuff I have are always in this diary with me to check in on. All right. So another thing that's really useful for astro planning is planning with the new and full moon. So actually, if any of you have done my lunar planning toolkit, I think it's about $19 on my site. I take you through this process of actually looking at, I mean, a lot of us would know that new moons are great for setting intentions, full moons are great for releasing, but the lunar planning toolkit, and what I'm going to show you in a minute, helps you look at, okay, but let's get more specific. What's it doing right now in my chart? So Laura says, I have 6 planets in retrograde. So during those, do I do the opposite? Yeah. So basically, what I would say is stay curious to this first, Laura. Stay curious for like a season of whether the retrograde periods actually feel better for you in those ways. And if you notice that happens, then yeah, like for the next season, I would plan for that, right? For most people, it will be the opposite. All right. No worries, Laura. Okay. So working with the lunar cycles is a very powerful process. Let's just think about for the moon a minute. The moon impacts our tides on Earth. Emergency room admissions go right up, particularly on a full moon. The word lunatic comes from lunar or moon, we as humans are very impacted. Women's menstrual cycles are often around close to the new moon or full moon when we bleed. We are very impacted by the moon. So it makes sense to really work with the moon in a bigger way. So I've been doing this for a long time. The moon ebbs and flows in cycles from the new moon through to the climax of the full moon. The new moon's powerful for intentions and activating desires, and the full moon's a powerful time to release, let go, and practice gratitude as well. So each new moon and full moon will fall in a different house in your astrology chart. And each month you can look up the sign and degrees of the new and full moon to see which house the new moon and full moon is activating. Similar to what we did with those aspects for the year, we can do the same thing for the new moon and full moon. And we can think about what that might mean for us for the next 2 weeks, and we can set intentions at the new moon that are really aligned to this, and we can release things that are really aligned to this at the full moon. Okay, so it kind of gives us a bit of a theme for that 2-week period. So as an example with my chart, I've never, to be honest, I've never heard anyone say not to set intentions during a retrograde. That's not something I've come across. It's an interesting concept, but given we have, we have planets retrograding for so many months of the year, would almost never be setting intentions. So no, I think my personal approach to that would be no. Eclipse energies are a whole other kettle of fish. They do make the new moon and full moon much more intense, but again, you need to look at the specifics of that eclipse. So each eclipse actually belongs to a family of eclipses, and each family of eclipses have a different energy to them. Some are really great. So again, it really does depend. So if we look at an example of full moon at 27 degrees Leo on February 17th, so this is the next one that's coming up. So Leo for me is right here in my chart. So I would go anti-clockwise. So this is going to be 0 degrees here. And so we're going to look for 27 degrees. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So this is right here in my 12th house. I don't have any 12th house planets, but it's going to be activating my 12th house of rest, retreat, and secrets, kind of everything underneath the surface, subconscious. Then we need to think about the archetype of Leo. So Leo is about creativity, being visible, shining your light. Okay, so this is also occurring during the launch, my level 1 certification program as well. So this full moon for me is about releasing any fears around being visible and being seen and heard. And actually, when I did these slides, I was going to launch the next new moon. I'm actually launching during this cycle, but I will still use it as a time to release any of those fears around being visible and seen and heard as I'm going through this launch. Okay, this is a key theme for me in my life because my North Node is in Leo in the 11th house. So my core, sole purpose, but typically with the North Node, it's something we have to work towards, is about being visible, being seen and heard, and really being a leader in groups and community. Okay, so it's a theme in my life anyway, but this new moon will make that even more potent. And I'm going to have to kind of dive under the surface a bit for the more subconscious, repressed type feelings around that. Okay, so yeah, you can look at your own. We won't go into this now for everyone, but you can look at your own chart to see which part of your chart this next full moon is activating. Again, if you want more resources on this particular topic, my lunar planning toolkit gives you all of that, shows you how to look it up, what the different archetypes mean, what the different houses mean, etc. Okay. So the final concept I'm going to talk to you about today is Planetary Days. I had one major aha with Planetary Days that I really want to share with you, but on a bigger level, it's really helpful. But actually first, let's just go back to this worksheet and I'll just run through So we've been through these two aspects, and you can write your findings in there. You've got the retrograde chart, and you can think about how you might plan around those retrogrades. Then what we've just talked about, I've got a list of all the new moon and full moons. And in this section here, you can write in which house it's activating, if there are any natal planets there. And you can actually then look at it for the whole year, and it will give you a bit of a sense of what to do when. And that's certainly how I plan my year. If there are certain houses that I know are going to be great for rest and retreat, or are going to be great for family time, or whatever, I actually plan my year around that. So next we're going to look at planetary days, and there is a worksheet for this. Okay. So yes, there are replay, and you will be able to download slides after, Terry, absolutely. So each day of the week is ruled by a planet or luminary, and therefore certain activities are suited to each day. If you work for yourself, you may want to plan your week in line with the following. So my big aha when I learnt this was that how the Western world treats Mondays is not at all aligned with natural cycles. Okay. No worries, Nikki, I'm glad. So Monday is ruled by the moon. So this energy is really more about slow starts, intuition, and self-care. Now, in the traditional Western world, Monday is like the start of the work week, rushing in. I hate Mondays, like full on energy, right? That's not at all aligned with natural cycles. So if you work for yourself, or if you have more control over what you do, I would highly suggest that you allow Mondays to be a bit of a slower day. So the way I work on Mondays, no worries, Amanda, nice to have you. The way I work on Mondays is I don't ever book in clients on a Monday. Okay, I do astrology readings, I have branding clients, I do all sorts of things, but I do not do them on Mondays. I typically have done, and we'll get to this in a minute, typically have done some planning and stuff over a weekend. So I just try and let it be a slow start. I might have a bit of admin that I need to deal with. It might be just the house might be, I've got 2 children. The house is often a mess after being at home with them for the weekend. I just, I might pull some oracle cards for the week, do a bit of journaling about what I want the week to be like, but it's not a full-on day for me, okay? It can be good, being the moon though, if you have groups of female communities, it can be good for that. It just depends. For me personally, client work on Mondays is not well aligned. It might be for you because there is that connection with the moon and feminine community, all right? Really intuitive connection and self-care is what I think Mondays are great for. So yeah, funny that you have a hard time with Mondays and you can't make them fast. This is why. Tuesdays, however, are ruled by Mars. Mars is bravery, motivation, action, and assertiveness. So if there is a day in your week where you need to have a day in your week where you work really hard, Tuesday is the day, okay? So it's great for working hard on a project, taking action, being assertive. It's a great day for project management, knocking things off the to-do list, like rapid fire, all right? That's Tuesday. Wednesday is ruled by Mercury, so it's a great time for communication and contracts. So it's great for things such as writing, speaking, teaching, recording podcasts, video streaming, or dealing with official documentation, such as setting up client invoices, contracts, files. That's what what Wednesday is great for. I also do, often will run group sessions on a Wednesday because Mercury, is also, I think of Mercury and I think of writing, speaking, and teaching. And a lot of my work is teaching, so I'll often run my group calls on a Wednesday. Thursday is ruled by Jupiter, which is all about expansion and learning. So this is another day I run group calls and trainings. And I'll also often set aside time in my day on a Thursday to do my own study. So this year I'm doing an astrocartography certification, a 6-month training on looking at like the most aligned places for us to live and travel based on our astrology chart. So I set aside time on a Thursday to do this, okay? It's a great time for reading, researching, and also passion projects on a Thursday. Fridays are ruled by Venus, and it's all about beauty, pleasure, and creativity. So as I said, I have my Astro branding company. I often do my Astro branding work on a Friday because I find that I'm quite creative on a Friday. I've gotten all of like my big to-dos out of the way by Friday, and I can kind of bring in this more creative energy. But it can also be a great day for taking the day off. I'll often go have lunch with a girlfriend or something like that on a Friday, or doing creative and pleasurable work in your business. Venus is the money planet, so it's also a great day for attracting new clients and customers. So again, a slight shift to maybe the traditional way of running your week. I will often pull out my diary on a Saturday, look at my calendar, write everything in, make sure that everything that's booked in is actually doable for that week ahead, plan for anything that I need to get done in preparation for client sessions and that sort of stuff. I often do that on a Saturday because Saturday is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn has the energy of organization and planning and structure and everything else. Often my husband and I will sit down on a Saturday afternoon, talk through what we've got coming up in the week and how we're going to manage all the different responsibilities, okay? It can also be good for things like paying bills as well. And then Sunday is ruled by the sun, and it's meant to be a day of rest, which you would have heard through a number of different religions and that sort of thing. That is a day of rest. So a good day to rest, have fun, play, and fill up your cup. So that is Planetary Days. I highly recommend that you think about how you can live your life more in alignment with Planetary Days, even if you have a job and you have a side hustle or something that you're trying to build, you know, and you do that either early in the morning or after work or in your lunch break. Actually start dividing out different tasks in line with the Planetary Days, okay? So there is a worksheet, a worksheet within the worksheet for you to look at that for yourself. So you can apply all of these learnings by going through the worksheet. I've tried to make it as helpful as possible. It is interactive, and you will, again, if you haven't downloaded that worksheet yet, I'll just pop it in the chat again one last time, but you'll also, when I send out the recording later today, it will also be there, okay? So I'm just going to run through a couple of the things that are coming up. One of them is another free training that's coming up in terms of if you have enjoyed this today, if you would like to work with me more, what some of the different options are at a number of different price points, okay? So there are 4 main ways that I suggest working with me relating to what we've talked about today. Okay, if you want to learn more about astrology and apply it to your life and business. So I do year ahead astrology readings. So if you're the type that doesn't want to learn astrology, just want someone to tell you what's going on, what the energy of your year is going to be like, I do have a year ahead astrology reading that you can have where I look really specifically at all the different transits that are impacting your chart, your numerology, you know, a whole lot of different stuff for you. And I can answer specific questions around the general times that are going to be good for different activities. So that you can find on my catherinehocking.com site under astrology readings. We also have Your Soulful Year. Now, Your Soulful Year is a beautiful online course program. It's self-study. And I have a really special offer until Monday. This is my final sale of this program, and I'm offering 50% off. You just use the code AstroPlanning. It's only available for 3 days. So you'll love this one because it goes even deeper into astro planning and the astrology of 2022, along with a number of more soulful planning techniques. I also have a more traditional planning workbook as a bonus workbook in there as well. Okay, so if you want to go deeper and have a whole lot of training videos and that sort of thing, Your Soulful Year is the way. I also mentioned the Lunar Planning Toolkit. If what you're really interested in is working with the new and full moon, then that's just $19 over on my site, the Lunar Planning Toolkit. It will give you, again, instructional videos and the information that you need to apply it. And finally, the Level 1 Business Astrology Certification is going to be taking applications from early March, so not very far away now, Actually, that's wrong. It's taking applications from the middle of February. Again, I've missed a few updates I needed to make. So taking applications from the 14th of February. So you can actually register your interest. There'll be a button to do that when I send out the recording. And this is a 9-month astrology certification where you go through 10 different courses. And by the end of it, you will actually be able to do astrology readings for clients. Okay, so if you're interested in bringing astrology into your business one way or another, then this is the program for you. Okay. So if anyone wants to put in any questions they have, I also have a new free training that is coming out. And again, this button's going to be on the site, but you can go to it at katherinehocking.com/incubator. I'm just going to grab that link for you. This is another free training that is coming up. And it's starting very, very soon. So you'll see the site here, but it's got 3 free trainings. And it's all about, if you think you might want to bring astrology into your business, it's going to go through things like, can you really make money from astrology? How are the different ways that entrepreneurs have brought astrology into their business? And it's not just as like a standard natal astrologer, but I show you some examples of how people are using astrology. I also talk about how to overcome the fears and limiting beliefs holding you back from bringing astrology into your business, because I had all of these fears. Believe me, I come from a very traditional, non-woo-woo family, and this was not easy for me to do. And the top mistakes entrepreneurs make building and establishing their astrology or astrology incorporating business, such as pricing, systemizing, and niching their business. So it's a really cool free training. I'm just going to pop the link in the chat now. You will also have a button that you can click through to. You can do that using astro.com. So if you want to see natal and transits, it's actually super easy. You just click the with transits button that is right there, and it will actually show you where the planets are right now. It won't show you the transit aspects, but it will show you where the planets are right now. Okay, in your chart. So that's pretty easy. All right, so I've just popped the link in for the incubator. If you're interested in bringing astrology into your business, definitely jump on that free training. And I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for taking 70 minutes out of your day to be here and learn with me. I've loved going through this, and there's been some great interaction. I've loved being able to help you personally with your chart. So yeah, I hope to see you in the incubator or in the certification, or work with you in another way through my business. Awesome. I'm so glad you learned a lot, Terry. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Kimberly. So nice to have you all here. I appreciate you. All right. Thanks, Annette. Thanks, Jillian. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Kelly. So nice to see you here, Kelly. All right. Bye, guys. See you later. To work out how to stop. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you later.